Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics Ka-Pow Comics. Getting that bit. We're not doing comics in 5 minutes. These will definitely, although they're on the 5 minutes playlist, these are definitely going longer than 5 minutes, I'm afraid. Because usually what I'm talking about is more than one issue, and I'm usually telling you a lot more about what rather than just it being good or not. Not that I am in any way like the arbiter of good taste. Nobody has to agree with what I like. Proved fairly recently that some people don't, and that's fine. I like a debate. I really do. But today I've gone for something which I thoroughly enjoyed. Beta Ray Bill, which is, for people paying attention, the first Marvel book on the list this year, the only Marvel book on the list so far. And looking quickly over there, let's see if anything else pops up, shall we? But there's a reason why this one made it on, and it is almost entirely to do with the creator, Daniel Warren Johnson. Now, I'm a big fan, like a big fan of their stuff, but I wasn't always. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't read, simply because it's a decent back catalogue, and there's so much new stuff coming out, I can never really go back and like properly delve into older stuff. I'm always looking for new things and always trying to read things by different people. It's why I read him in the first place. And it was because he did Murder Falcon, which had such a cool name, I had to pick it up. And it turns out it was everything I wanted out of a comic book. And since then, I've picked up a lot of stuff. But I didn't pick this one up. It wasn't on my pull list. And it's not because, I disagree with Horse Thor being a main character. It was honestly, I was getting a lot of other stuff at the time. So I thought, you know what? One of my best mates is getting it. He's a customer. He won't mind if I flick through it. And I absolutely loved it. We have no spares. And I checked, and like the second issue is already like running low. So it's like, you know what? I'll wait and get the collection. So I have. And I read it recently in its entirety. And it's brilliant. Is absolutely brilliant because it does exactly what I wanted him to do. Donny Cates pulls this at the front, and I don't want to think I'm like, just ripping off Donny Cates here. Like, I actually have thought this for a while. But his trick is to do like a really good rise and fall in terms of like emotional hits, pacing, and action. Like, it never lets you just fall into a rut of expected kind of emotions. It's all about taking you to other places. And to give you a brief rundown, it's Beta Ray Bill who doesn't always look the way he does when you see him. He has a magic axe, or he had a magic axe, which allowed him to turn back into his original form. He was turned into like the big monster Horse Thor because Surtur was attacking their home world and they needed somebody to defend it. But since his weapon got broke by Thor Odinson, I believe, he can't change back, and he doesn't like the way he looks. Horse Thor, not a good look for him. And especially him going on a journey to find a weapon that will allow him to return to his normal form, like something that powerful, which ends up being Surtur's blade. But there's a whole bunch of stuff happens on the way to that, which is fantastic. For a start, you get like the general emotions of Beta Ray Bill are done really effectively. He is unhappy with the fact that the person he sees in a mirror, although he's the hero a lot of people expect, is not his own face. And they give like a kind of obvious physical reason for it in the fact that he's got a thing with Lady Sif, but Lady Sif wants him to turn back into his original form, and he can't, and she gets a bit weirded out by it. But more than that, it's just himself, like the way he sees himself in the world isn't right anymore. It is very much allegorical to a different story, a different kind of problem. But the journey he goes on, probably a bit different than what most people would in this world if they were going through a similar problem, shall we say. But the emotional beats are really there, and it is a struggle, and he gets through with his friends. And the more I'm saying this, the more I'm realizing how much of a trans allegory it is. Certainly wasn't what I was intending to talk about. I'm going to talk about the artwork and stuff, but yeah, definitely think of that when you're reading it, and you'll get a lot more from it. But the artwork is the other main reason why I liked it. His work is just so dynamic, and with Mike Spicer on the colors, it absolutely jumps off the page. He does motion lines, but he does them in a way that actually makes a lot of sense, because it looks more like, rather than leaving a trail behind the motion, the thing in motion blurs slightly, and instead of the straight line across, it's a jagged line to show that it's moving in that arc, and it's really quite effective. It's also like the master of foreshortening. Like in fight scenes, when you've got arms and legs being thrust all over the place, punching and kicking, and heads going backwards, it all looks really fully naturalistic. It still is a comic book. Like the guy absolutely loves these onomatopoeia. Like the comic book is filled with them, but they're done in really effective ways, and they're not just the standard kind of ones. He uses them for like innocuous sound effects, the kind of thing which most writers will trust you to imagine yourself, but he puts in there, and he makes sure like he's trying to create a world in a single image, world out of a single image, a still image, that looks to be in motion and sounds like something. It's really like, it's so brave to do it in this kind of way, and it works really effectively as well. Also, he's a massive fan of the splash page. There's so many. I actually did consider putting like a bunch of bookmarks into my copy here, so I can flick through and show you them. But honestly, okay, without even like, just literally the first page I opened, doing all slick past it, just watching Thornton do the punch there. That in itself is just brilliant. I'll see if I can just find the first splash page I get to. Right, there we go. First splash page I get to. There we go. That's his Chip, who he's friends with, who talks to, who becomes a femme-presenting robot at some point in it, and gives up something of herself in the form of a absolutely wicked axe that he then goes and has a fight with. It's brilliant, but even her arc has its own emotional kind of heft to it, as does the story of Pip and Scourge, who come along for the ride. Scourge, by the way, is fantastic in this one. In my head, it's now always Carl Urban, but the voice just matches perfectly in this one, because the ship turns herself into a gigantic gun to basically fight Surta, and it's like, yeah, I can do this. I can make myself into this gigantic spaceship-sized ballistic cannon, but I can't actually shoot. I don't know how to do that. That's not what I'm built for. So she just creates a trigger and handle and gets Scourge to fire her as a gun, and it's the happiest Scourge has ever been in his entire life. But it's so ridiculous at the same time. It's so over the top, and that's what I love about it. It is all things that it needs to be, and it does it brilliantly. And it looks beautiful, and because it's only 5 issues, it's fully self-contained. You don't really need to know anything else. There are backstory bits, like what happened to his axe, but they're all dealt with in story. You don't need massive exposition. The kind of one-time you do get is when Odin turns up. The Daniel Warren Johnson's version of Odin is just brilliant. Like, honestly, it's like, I'm about to tell you what it is, but I'm not going to. That's the one thing I'm not going to spoil. Go and find a copy of this comic book and read it. And when you'll get to the Odin bit, you'll be like, yeah, I can see why Shorty was really happy with that one. That is brilliant. And the entire book is fantastic. Genuinely check it out. I'm kind of annoyed that I didn't put it on my pull list, but I'm glad I got my own copy, and I'm glad I get to read it whenever I want now, because it's absolutely worth going back to time and time again. That's it from me today. I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.